Bradley, Hamner, Huntsville, Alabama. Are you a war eagle or are you a tiger?
Oh, I'm both. I'm both. I'm an Auburn Tiger,
You got to pick
War
one.
Eagle.
You got to go tiger. You're go tiger. Is that what you said?
No, yeah, well, I did, but I spell it Go, not the way you spell it.
Oh, so you're one of those peons. You're not one of the elite that have the extra letters and the French arrogance. Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly right. Yeah, we don't have players that change their back of their jersey on their senior nights.
Hey, when you're that guy, you can change your name.
Well, that's true. That's true. Yeah, he was that dude.
They're going to name streets and bridges and entire towns after him. So he can change his name.
Well, especially if he wins the Super Bowl, he will.
I think he will. But I got to give him a line. Quit letting him get sacked. But I digress, man. Why you get me off on these tangents? We got to focus, man. Focus. So you've got a couple things going on, huh? Blueprint OS and Above the Business podcast.
Yeah.
So what's your story, man? Why are you some business guru we should listen to?
Oh, I don't think people should listen to me. Actually, I really don't. No,
That's good because I forgot to hit record. So I mean, it's
good. No, to steal a line from Tony Robbins, I am not your guru at all.
Okay. So you and I got into a little 10x on my interview, so we can get into a little Tony. You know that's all reverse psychology from that guy, at least.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But I think you mean it, and I think I mean it. Like, I don't want anybody to worship me, but I don't think he minds it. But anyway, as you were saying.
No, I totally agree. What I'll share, this is genuinely how I try to approach things, whether it's on my podcast or whenever on this one, is I will share with you a little bit about my story, and hopefully some people may hear and see themselves in my story in some way, shape, form, or fashion. And then I'll share with you what I did to kind of get out of that. And that's what works for me. So I really just share, this is where I was, and this is the things that I did to try to get out of that. And it's helped some other business owners and entrepreneurs to be able to do that. And so I started my first business in 2010. My dad is a small business owner. He owns Clemens and Hamner Seed, which is a farming operation where I grew up, close to Florence, Alabama, northwest part of Alabama. And I think, Wes, that a lot of things are caught, not taught. And so I really caught from my dad the value of hard work. When you're in the farming business, you work whatever it takes. If you've got storms rolling in, you got to get the harvest out, you got to plant, you just do whatever it takes. Now, with that came obviously like sacrifice. He missed a lot of my games and wasn't able to, coach my teams when I was growing up. But he was there as much as he could to be able to be there. But he obviously had a business to run. They now farm 4,000 acres or so, something like that. And then they do a whole cleaning operation for other farmers around the area. And so I picked that up from my dad. And then not just because we talked about Auburn and LSU a minute ago, but in the Auburn Creed, it talks about the value of hard work. And so when I started my business in 2010, I believe that my background had previously been in sales. I sold yellow page ads, and then I got into pharmaceuticals. And so I really had been in sales. And so I knew really two things. I felt like I knew how to sell, and I felt like I knew how to work hard. And that is exactly what was needed to get that business off the ground. And it worked until it didn't. And the reason it didn't work is because I simply ran out of time. There was not enough time to do what I needed to do, and the business began to flatline. And I burned out. And so I ended up having some health scares in 2015. Fortunately, found myself in Toronto with at Strategic Coach, and I was with a gentleman who played Major League Baseball, and he had grown a business. We're doing this exercise, which is actually now a book called 10X is Easier Than 2X. They came out with it last year. But we're doing that exercise in late 2015. And this guy says, Well, we did 40 million in top line and I made 5 million personally. And he goes on to say what it would look like to do 400 million and 50. And I had been up to that point, no business owners I'd been around were willing to talk about revenue, profit, and personal income. Everybody talked about sales numbers and all these other things and accolades and awards you win, et cetera. But nobody talked about some of those. And then furthermore, I'd never really been around somebody making that kind of money. And then he was so calm about it. He wasn't braggadocious. He wasn't Grant Cardone throwing it in my face at all. I mean, he just was what it was. And then he ended up doing something that really changed my life. He said, well, look, man, at the end of the day, I've been where you were, but it's just systems and processes. And I rolled my eyes. I was like, oh my gosh, if I've heard that once, I've heard it 100 times. And no one ever shows me what that actually looks like. And this is what I'll show you. And so at lunch, we grab lunch and then we go back into the room and he starts showing me. He's like, this is how we do this. This is how we onboard customers. This is how we get customers. And I remember those few minutes and I was like, it was like the bar had been raised for me and everything changed to where it's like, that's what it takes. That's actually what it takes. And so really at the end of the day, I was the rainmaker of the business. And what I mean by rainmaker is I don't mean just sales. I know that connotation ends up becoming just around sales, but rainmaker isn't everything was dependent upon me. That business did not go if I didn't go. Hence, it was a hand crank. So as long as I was cranking the handle of that business, it was going, but then I got tired and I got worn out. And so then I began to see, oh, that's actually what it takes. And so that's the changes I began to make. Now it took time. I mean, old habits die hard. And so it took time. And I didn't have the language that we have around it now. Hence, we say I went from being a rainmaker. I became the architect of my business. What architects use? They use blueprints. And ultimately, what I ended up building was an operating system for my business. And that's what we teach people to do now.
So can you share some of the nuggets? Like what, were you just winging everything? Like what did he show you? You know, you talk about onboarding and whatnot, but I mean, I got to imagine you weren't winging every single thing, right? So like what was unique?
We had nothing documented. Everything was in my head.
How big was your team? Or was it just you coaching or did you have a team?
Oh, no. At the time I had, I think 6 or 7 team members at the time. I mean, I would fluctuate. That's a whole discussion. I'd fluctuate between 4 and 8 team members. I mean, I would have turnover and bring people in because I didn't have a systematic way to, you and I, when I was on your podcast, we were talking about training. Like that was an example of bring people on, didn't give them clear expectations, didn't have it documented, didn't have scorecards for them, only did product training, never did prospect training, didn't have a documented sales process. Every single time I was just repeating myself over and over and over and over and over again. And that became just exhausting. Yeah. And so then I would just default and say, well, you know what? You guys aren't going to get it done. I'll just get it done. I'll just hit our sales numbers that we need to hit.
Yeah.
And so I'll just give me the ball. Okay. It's late in the fourth quarter. Give me the ball. Well, that works in basketball. You know, we have the finals tonight, but it works in basketball. It doesn't work in business. And I really just didn't know how to do it. I mean, I would, there are times I can literally remember right now. I was like, okay, I need to document this stuff. Like I need to document what we're doing. And I'd pull up a Word document. I'm like, I just see the blinking cursor. I don't know what to write. I don't know where to start. I don't have a template. What do I put down? I hear this language and then it just would never come. And I'll even share with you that before and after I met that guy in Toronto, I would put a block on my calendar of like Friday afternoon, build sales system for 4 hours. Well, guess what happened? Friday afternoon, I would be like, you know what? I don't want to do that. Well, I don't even know how to do that. And so I just wouldn't do it. And so that just builds over time. And before you know it, you're months and years into business and you don't document everything. So hence everything still fell on me. So when I say nothing was documented, I genuinely mean it. Like nothing was documented. I mean, I would transfer stuff to the team. Yes, I would. It would come out of my head to their head. But what happened, Wes, when they walk out the door? Now
Yeah.
all that intellectual property left with them.
I know what you're talking about on my interview, with Infusionsoft, and I would show people like what was possible, because when you're in the grind, you're just like, this is the way it's done. And when I show like how you don't have to do everything yourself, like, how a lot of things can be automated. Like if you've never been exposed to it, you just don't know.
Yeah, that's right.
We talk a lot about jujitsu, and it's like you see these little guys beating big guys, because if the big guy is untrained, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you don't have to know that much more. Just one step ahead, and it's life-changing. I always say, like, sales is a zero-sum game.
Yeah.
It's like, if I'm 0.5% better than you, I get 100% of the commission.
Yep.
And because whatever big tournament just happened, like years ago, I spoke at an event and the theme was golf. It was at one of the TPC resorts, and I was talking about Tiger Woods and Jordan Spieth, and these guys, like, they'll play for 4 days and they'll win a tournament by one stroke.
Yep.
And 274 shots and they'll win by one stroke. And so they were if the competition was 0.25% better each day for 4 days, they'd have won.
Yep.
I mean, it's like 100% increase in pay.
Yep.
But at least second place makes some money.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
You and I, if we're 0.25% worse, we get zero.
Yep.
And so when I show people, fix this one thing. Whoa. Okay, now fix the second. Whoa. And then it's like, it just snowballs. So like nothing was probably like earth shattering, right? It was just do this, document that. How do you answer the phone? How do you leave a voicemail?
Yep.
When do you follow up the next time? How do you create a proposal? Oh, should we have a template for a proposal?
Yep. Well, and I'll even go back. There were a couple of times way prior to 2015 that I would go to a meeting, and you'd be at a meeting and someone would be, pull it up on stage, or they would be speaking and they would talk about, and they would say systems and processes. Oh, and by the way, have a good team. And so I would find my way to get to that person. And then I would say, hey, do you have that process? Can I have that? Do you have it written down? They were like, yeah, for sure. So I'd say, well, can you send it to me? Can I get a copy of that? And I remember one in particular for sure. And, he went on and talked for an hour and a half about this system or whatever. He sent it to me. And it was a one-page document, which I value simplicity for sure. So I'm not saying the one-pager can't be really, really great. But this one-pager had like 10 bullet points on it. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. This cannot be this system that you are out here touting. Like this is a joke. And so I think that's why I say once you see it, it's really hard to unsee it. Once you see it, it's really hard to unsee it. And so when I saw those documents and how, number one, I'm not even in that business, and I was able to scan in 30, 45 seconds, say, well, this is a beautiful document. This is so easy to understand. It is structured the right way. I get it. This makes sense. And he said, Bradley, I got my business out of my head, because he was a single financial advisor and himself, and making probably pretty good money. And then he ended up building a company with him not doing it, but him hiring a lot of people and saying, this is how we do it. This is how we find new customers. This is how we get leads. And then there was even things, which is again, why an operating system we think matters so much, is that, okay, now where do you even put this stuff, right? Because then there's maybe somebody listening to this that, like, on their desktop, there's hundreds of, files on their desktop or in their Google Drive or Dropbox Drive or whatever drive that they use. Things are just out all over the place and people can't find them. And then it's like, oh, well, let's print them off and let's put them in binders. And then you end up with dust and binders on bookshelves and all these other things. And so, like, we went through, how do you actually document what you do so that other people can use it. What do you document? What do you not document? How do you document it? Where do you put it? All of those things. At the end of the day, I was solving the problem that I needed to solve for myself.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's talking about Jocko again, right? There's a dichotomy in everything. I tell people, anytime I speak, I will contradict myself at least every 5 minutes. Because on the one hand, it's easy, right? Keep it simple, stupid. But on the other hand, I mean, there's a lot of details. Like there's a guy that I follow. I've had him on my podcast. He's super popular on LinkedIn, but he puts out these little things. Like he says, "Hey, it pays to embrace discomfort early on. Entrepreneurship is uncomfortable. Work is uncomfortable. Life is uncomfortable. Blah blah blah." And this thing has 1,055 comments. So the advice is get uncomfortable. Okay, what does that mean?
What does that mean? Right.
Yeah. So should I stand up during this interview? Should I, should I've taken an ice bath this morning? Should I only do cold showers?
Right.
Should I eat sand? Define that, because uncomfortable is different for everybody. And then there's baby steps. I mean, I'm kind of an idiot. Years ago, my buddy said, "Hey, you should do this swim across Tampa Bay with me, 3.5 miles," right? I said, "Yeah, okay, I'll do that." It was a fundraiser. I never did open water swim in my life. I trained in a pool because that was the only thing I could get. Then I put my face in the dark water. I panicked for 45 minutes.
Oh gosh, yeah.
I swear to God.
Yeah.
And it's just because I'm stubborn, and I lost all my form, just hammered the water, just angry. I'm like, I'm going to die out here in Tampa Bay, all the way across the country from my family. I'm such an idiot. What the hell was I thinking? And then after 45 minutes, I'm like, get a hold of yourself, man. And then I swam. Then I did it for 7 years, but I don't recommend that approach for everybody.
No.
But I stuck to it. I mean, I would swim 2,500 meters 3 times a week.
Yeah.
And that was uncomfortable, but it's hard. We're not all going to do that.
Yeah.
But everybody, 1,055 comments. "Oh yeah, love this. Get uncomfortable." Like, dude, you're probably sitting on the toilet, texting with 2 thumbs. And as soon as you're done, you're going to go watch a movie. Like, are you even following this advice? But everybody jumps on the bandwagon.
I totally agree with you. And I'm even going to show you a loom I did. See if it'll pop up.
Yeah.
It's backwards. Well, anyway, I did this loom yesterday on something similar, not the same context of the comment you just made, but it actually was someone had posted this thing of simple scales, fancy fails, right? I mean, who has not heard that? Okay. And what they
haven't.
went on,
what I like it.
Huh?
I hadn't heard that. I like it though.
Simple scales, fancy fails. But let me share with you. So I'm not a contrarian. If you listen to my podcast, I don't go out of my way to be a contrarian. However, the comment I was really trying to make was clearly we don't want to divulge into complexity. Yes. The problem is the person that I saw this from was touting the value of one marketing channel, one sales process, one. And I thought to myself, this, by the way, years ago, I didn't do this. I would just blindly take whatever I was hearing in my ear, and I never questioned, do I actually believe that? And so she was saying simple meant one. And I thought to myself, one is actually one of the most dangerous words in business.
Yeah.
You have one, you have none.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, Jocko, I know, would talk about redundancy, right?
Two is one and one is none.
That marketing channel goes down.
Yeah.
Now what are you going to do? Okay, what happens when the algorithm changes and the thing that you were doing to get leads in your business does not work anymore, as an example? Now, clearly, we don't want complexity, but simplicity doesn't always mean that it's one. It just means it's handled the right way in business, whether it's in the number of products that you have. Do you want an overwhelming number of products? Clearly not. Okay. Chick-fil-A has been able to master this obviously really incredibly well. but they don't sell one sandwich. Okay. Yes, the chicken sandwich is where they, obviously have made their billions, but they do have other products that they sell. And so I think that there's, to your point, you used it either earlier or on the podcast that you came on with mine, you talked about dichotomy. And I think at the end of the day, sometimes we have to be able to hold two things at one time.
Yeah. And it's the old adage of, dig your well before you're thirsty, but if your current well is producing, go to it.
Yeah.
And because there's, Dan Kennedy talks about it, again, the dichotomy, but he talks about embracing complexity, meaning your business should be hard to replicate. And so, because he talks about whoever can spend the most money to get a client wins.
Right. Yeah.
So, because it's like I'm HOA president. I'm slashing and burning all the vendors. We've had a cleaning company, literally been the original cleaning company for over 20 years of this community, and they're dropping the ball. Well, it ain't hard to replace a cleaning company, especially when they don't do the job.
Right.
So, like, what differentiates you now? If they had gone above and beyond, like I'm looking to replace our pool company. Our pool equipment room is atrocious. Literally, extension cords plugged into extension cords. One was unplugged and just dangling. It had caught fire. The 3-prong adapter thing was burnt to a crisp. Going to a unit, obviously not working. Like chemicals spills everywhere. Chlorine. I'm like, okay, you're not hard to replace, dude.
Yeah.
You're not going above and beyond. So, but like we were talking about earlier, it's I win big sales by showing them how, because people say, I don't have time. I don't have time to do this. I got to keep going. So it's like, okay, can you set aside 8 hours one time and we'll fix one nagging thing in your business? That one. And so in my world, I help people with making their outbound pipeline, phone calls, phone scripts, voicemail scripts, emails tied to the voicemails, and a social media outreach.
Yeah.
And then I automate it inside of Infusionsoft. And it'll work with most other systems too. But I have it pre-built in Infusionsoft. And I'm like, how long does it take to leave a voicemail message, fire off an email, then assign yourself a task in 2 days to call back? 5 minutes, 7 minutes. Okay. How often are you doing it a day? Yeah, I have my guys make 20 outbound calls a day. Okay. How many guys you have? You have 3 guys. Okay. So that's 60 calls a day, 5 minutes each, 300 minutes a day of voicemail, sending emails. Do they do it 100% of the time? Perfectly? Do they remember to follow up, set the task? No, sometimes they miss. Right? So when you really boil it down, say, okay, we're going to make this 5-minute task, this 300-minute task a day go away. If you give me 8 hours, I'll make that go away for the rest of your life. Can you find those 8 hours? Oh, yes. So now I give them back that time. Now I say the second campaign we make, if the first one took 8 hours, the second one will only take 4 because you've already done it. Then the third one will only take 2. So then they start to get excited. But if you never even knew it was possible, like we talked about jiu-jitsu, I never knew a thing about triangles and omoplatas and uchimatas. All I knew is get your dukes up, boy. Punch. Then you start learning about takedowns and judo throws, and like there's a whole new world, So I think that's what we bring to the table, right? And it sounded like that your eyes were opened in Toronto, right? Mm-hmm. Like, oh, what?
Yeah.
And then was it like bittersweet? It's like you get excited and you get pissed. Like, I've been doing this so hard, so wrong for so long, and it could have been so much easier. Like, well, at least you learn now.
No, that's very true. I did have some moments where I thought to myself, goodness gracious, if I would have just started a little bit getting some of this stuff out of my head, let's say not the first year or 2 years, because the- yes, I wish I would have started with this knowledge to begin with, but at some point it needed to change. I mean, there's an element. There really is an element to where, if let's just take sales as an example, let's just use that one. If a founder is wanting to back themselves out of it over time, okay, sure. Well, there may be a time that you might still be involved in something, because then you can do it, document it, and then be able to delegate it, properly. What ultimately I was doing is really the reverse of that, or really just one step. I was just trying to delegate stuff off of me, and I wasn't actually lining it up. Like, I'll give you a really good example. So within a few months of that experience, I also at the same time hired my first EA. And the program I was a part of then told me that I needed to hire an EA, and I hired a full-time EA. I did not need a full-time EA. I did not. I needed, sure, an EA would have been nice at 10, 15 hours a week, something like that. But I was stupid. I hired a full-time EA, I think I was paying her $55,000 a year, money I did not have. And so she comes in and she was like, basically, what do you want me to do? I was like, I don't know. Check my email. They said I need an EA. Did I have a job description? No. Did I think about what I actually wanted her to do when she started? No. Okay, well, she comes in, and so she starts. I'm still running appointments at that point. I'm still meeting with clients, and so roughly I was meeting with clients maybe 15 appointments a week, give or take, something like that. So that wasn't out of the ordinary. Well, guess what we actually started to do, and this was like a big theme for me, is that we actually started to make it work. I would say, hey, next time, print this off. Next time, confirm the appointment, because we'd have people miss. Okay,
Right.
next time, do this. All the time, she's gathering this information, and we're getting better and better and better and better and better. It's working to the point to where we actually have the best year we've had up to this point. I'm like, oh man, we are building a well-oiled machine. This is some language I use now. And then she left, and that's when the like all of that knowledge walked out. And so like I continued to experience the pain until I was going to learn the lesson it was trying to teach me. And so then my initial thought was, this EA thing, I'm just not going to do it. That was the wrong lesson to learn.
Yeah.
You see, like it actually was still taking me time to realize, like, oh, I did it again. I did it again. I didn't document what it is again, And so, there's a lot of different ways to go about doing it, where you put it, how you put it. Do you use Google Docs? Use Notion? Do you use Trainual? I know the Trainual guys really well. At the end of the day, if you want to really be able to grow a company to where it's less dependent upon you, and you want to be able to take a vacation where you're not always constantly thinking about work, at the end of the day, I think you got to upgrade your operating system. Instead of it being a UOS, or in my case, it was a Bradley OS, to where it's got to then be something outside of you. And we call that thing Blueprint OS.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's, everybody thinks they don't have time, huh? Or they mean to get to it, but it's the old adage with the what is it? The merely urgent keeps us from doing the truly important.
Yep. And the time will actually never come.
So is it just a matter of just being fed up? Can we like invite people, say, look, before it gets so bad, because we talked about earlier on the, vitamins versus pain pills, right? Do we just have to hit rock bottom to finally listen and seek a better path?
I would like to say no, but Wes, I was so stubborn. I did. Now, I don't want to say that I think everybody does. I wish that I would have paid attention and said, you know what? I think I do need to actually listen to this. And maybe if I just told myself, I agree with this. I don't know how to do it. Then I could begin to go through the process of like, well, let me search out solutions to do it. Okay. But for a lot of people, they will get to a point. I mean, we just had a new member join today. And listen, he said, I got the business to 3 million. We're stuck. I can't move the thing further anymore. And most people, it happens actually, I think before that. I think typically a million is where they can kind of get it to off of their back, right? Off of everything kind of running through them. So for him to get it to 3 million, clearly he's been doing a lot of really good things, but he has a bigger vision to go to 10 million. Well, he realizes I can't do 3x the work that I'm doing right now. Like something fundamentally has to be able to change. So a direct answer to your question is for some people, it might be, and that's just the honest answer. It might be, try to get this quote right, that the pain of staying the same, okay, becomes greater than the pain of the change and actually seeing that, you know what, I got to do something different. That was my story. I finally said, okay, I'm actually considering leaving. I'm just going to go back into pharmaceuticals, say that this was a failure. I couldn't make it. I'm going to do something different. But hopefully for somebody listening to this, that whether they, do anything with us is to be able to say, you got to get your business out of your head. You got to get your business out of your head. Ultimately, you will always be tied to that. And the more valuable you are to your business, the less valuable your business is.
I like that. So true. So concise. But it's the E-myth, right? Most people are not entrepreneurs. They're technicians with fits of entrepreneurism.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, absolutely. And so again, the part of my story, I was really good at the aspects of the day-to-day of the business. But I think that if you want to be a great business owner and have a business that works, I think that all of your dreams are on the other side of having a business that works. And that means that in addition to the skills of your profession, you also have to learn the skills of business ownership. And that's ultimately what we teach. We're agnostic to industries. We don't just work in a specific industry. And the reason is for that, we could certainly niche down into it, but for me, I found a lot of value in being with other people from different industries that do different things, because then I can synthesize the principles down. And that's what we try to do, is synthesize the principles down that are timeless, not some tactic that's working right now, so not some arbitrage situation. What are the principles of business? Because a lot of our members either want to own multiple businesses or multiple locations, and they realize, oh my goodness, wait a minute, I can't double myself. I can't triple myself. I can't literally clone myself, but they can create something that exists outside of them. And that thing we believe is an operating system or an OS.
And so you mentioned the book. That was Dan Sullivan's, right? 10X.
Yeah.
It's easier than 2X.
Mm-hmm.
So are you part of the strategic coach program, or are you a strategic coach?
I was. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I used to be a part of their program. I think I stopped right before COVID. So 2019. So I was in coach for 3 years ish or something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good good program.
Oh, it is. Yeah. It's a great program.
What do you say to the people that say, oh, you got a niche? Because I'm going through this right now. I'm looking at a couple of programs I want to launch, and I've never had a niche. And so I'm considering it. But it's like, it just doesn't speak to me. Like, as I'm making the offers and the headlines, it's like I could focus on high tech and tech industry. I've sold a lot of software, right? Maybe I could focus on SaaS salespeople, or maybe I focus on independent reps that are like certified partners of HubSpot and Go High Level and Keep.
Yep.
I got the chops for that. But it's like you're talking about these principles, the things that I teach are just universal. My son's in real estate. He's applying it and winning. I've got mortgage brokers that are applying it and winning. Just import export business in Miami. I mean, it's all the same. Do we have to niche? Do I have to niche? Tell me I don't have to niche, or just tell me to suck it up and niche. Tell me right now. Give me an answer.
No, I don't. I guess I'm going to be contrarian with this. I think what it is, though, back to the thing, I do think I've had to do this work about ideal customer. Yes, I do believe there's an ideal customer. I don't think that means that we have to niche down into a specific industry. Okay. I don't. So for instance, I'll say this. I don't work with solopreneurs. I don't. So if somebody's a solopreneur, doesn't have a team, by the way, that team can be a team of VAs, et cetera. But I believe fundamentally business is a team sport. So it's a full stop that if you're not a business owner with a team, then that's not going to fit for us. So I made
Can
my
you
mistake.
help that solopreneur build a team?
If they have, okay, great point, great question. If they have the desire to build a team, yes.
Okay.
But there are people out there, and by the way, this is totally fine. They go against this, that they tout the laptop lifestyle, being a solopreneur, don't have to report to anybody, don't have people reporting to you, don't have to do all this stuff with turnover and all these things, and they tout that. That is not us. Okay, so that's an example of things where it's like, well, those are knockout factors. That's not going to work. If somebody has the desire, I do want to build a team. I would love to build a couple $1 million business with a team of 5 or 6 or 7 people. That's what I'm wanting to build. And they're currently a solopreneur and they're really willing to do the work and want to grow. Then yes, absolutely. We can help somebody to do that. The one big thing for me is I personally do not want people in our program. Because by the way, I do think that the quality of a program is who you don't let in. Okay. And so one of the absolute biggest is someone who wants to grow. Like if they're just like, I'm good where I'm at. I'm kind of good where I'm at. I'm in a good place. I don't really, if we grow a little bit, it's like, it's not going to work. It's just not going to work. Now, that doesn't mean that you've got to, ruin your life, your health, your family, and miss all these things in this, and sacrifice that all of that at the altar of growth. Absolutely not. We do not believe in that either. But if someone just doesn't want to grow, that's not going to be a good fit either. So like that's an example of two things for sure. Like if you're a solopreneur, want to stay a solopreneur, no. If you don't really have a desire to grow, which we ask that question to find out, hey, where do you want to be in 3 years? Even if they can't articulate this perfect 3-year vision, that's okay. That's okay. But if they say, yeah, I mean, I'm at 5, I'd love to be at 10 team members. I'm making 150,000. I'd love to make, 250,000. That would be a dream to be able to be there. Okay. Now we can begin to actually start to work with some of those things because we actually have a North Star. But if somebody just doesn't have a North Star, they're kind of meh about it. Like that's not going to work for us.
Yeah. Well, you choose who to lose, right? It's, picking your clients is important. I see all the time. I've worked with a lot of tech companies and 2 of them recently, and they take all comers.
Yeah. Right.
And then, and it's tech, it's coding, it's development, it's developing apps, and there's scope creep, and they're just floundering. And I'm like, man, you gotta choose who to lose. You gotta be clear on what you're creating. You got to be clear on deliverables. It's one guy I'm working with and helping him just come up with his message because he admitted it's a red ocean.
Yep.
Right. So,
yep.
And his stuff is just, we help fintech with cost-effective AI, ML development, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay,
Yep.
How are you different? I said, how about this? Can you offer a guarantee? Monthly milestones met, under budget, ahead of schedule, guaranteed, or it's free. He's like, what? I said, no, look, you put some caveats in there, right? What are the stipulations? 1, the customer responds to all of your inquiries within 1 business day.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
2, right, come up with a few things.
I totally agree.
2, you have weekly status checks with all decision makers and team members contributing to the project. 3, so you come up with a few things. So if you don't hit the goal, but you look back and they take 4 days to get back to you every time, say, you know what, you did not live up to your end of the bargain.
That's right.
So you're getting billed this month.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. And if you had asked me a few years ago when I first started reluctantly in coaching, it wasn't like a desire to get into coaching. That wasn't like, oh, coaching is a good place. And I have to tell you, I actually don't even, I think if people consider what we do as business coaching, I actually think that they miss the point. I think what our program really more is and what we do is much closer to organizational infrastructure consultants than we are coaching. Now, I do have a handful of clients that would be very much considered private business coaching clients. I have 3. Yes, that would fall under the bucket. But when I started, I was a generalist business coach, and I had people asking me questions. Well, I think even when I was building my website, my very first website, which was the Hamner group at the time, and they would say, well, what's the problem you solve? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know what the problem is I solve. I mean, I know a little bit about marketing. I know a little bit about sales. I know a little bit about this. I know a little bit about that. And it really wasn't until I started to develop kind of my model that one day I said, look, I was talking to somebody. I said, look, you do it like this. You take these principles and you actually literally run the business this way. And I showed them our Google Drive. Okay. And then I showed them our Notion and I said, look, it's literally the operating system. And they said, oh, well, why don't you tell me that? I didn't know that. And that's when I realized, oh, I actually was like not sharing what is actually the thing. Does that make sense? Like I was really in the generalist business coaching space, to your point, big time red ocean. I mean, there's a business coach, you can throw a rock and hit a business coach, at this point. But that's when I actually realized like, oh, this is actually what I'm in the business of helping people to be able to do is create order and organization in their business. And I have to say this one thing, because I didn't get this out, but I always have to make sure I share this with folks, is that a lot of the times people will come in and then they will begin to think that I am super neat and organized and all of these kind of things. And so therefore it's a natural thing to create this. There's a lot of people out there, super disciplined, very structured, very organized, etc., tidy with everything. I am a classic entrepreneur. I have classic entrepreneurial ADD. So everything that we created to solve my own problem was because I'm not naturally that way, not because I am. And hopefully that gives some people some peace of mind, because for years I would look at certain people, they wake up at 5:45 every morning, they do this, they do this, they do this, they do this, and they don't miss. And so whenever they would talk about structure in the organization, I was like, well, I can't be this person. I can't be him. I try to do that, but
Yeah.
I'm a classic entrepreneur. And so it's all of these systems and processes and playbooks that we build are actually built because I'm not that way.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, that helps them to go, oh, okay, well, that makes sense, because I can resonate a lot more with that than I can the person who is, let's use some like Jocko. Like I can't get up at 4:35 every single morning.
Yeah, well, and he's an anomaly even among SEALs, right? I mean, I know a lot of SEALs. I did that fundraiser for 7 years. I know dozens, if not hundreds, of SEALs. I trained jiu-jitsu with a couple of them. I mean, they're like, yeah, he's weird in his own way. Like, no, I don't do that.
Yeah, right.
So it's okay. It's like, and I tell people all the time, it's like Michael Jordan was a terrible coach.
Yes.
Steve Kerr is a great coach because he didn't have the abilities of Michael Jordan. He had to analyze things, and so it's okay. It's those that have to endure and really get after it that make the better coaches, because we had to fix stuff for ourselves. So it's okay. It's normal.
That's right.
So you've got, I'm linking out to it, but you've got two, right? The abovethebusiness.co, but then you've got the Blueprint OS. So what's the difference?
Yeah, so Above the Business is the name of my podcast. And so the way we tie all that together in our model, so you start out as the rainmaker. You first, if somebody picks up anything, hopefully they picked up this, which is see yourself, begin to make the mindset shift to see yourself as the architect of your business. Make the shift from being the rainmaker to seeing yourself as the architect. Once you do that, then you can go about designing, building, and installing an operating system. And once you do that, then you're able to start being above the business more often, seeing things. I thought you had a great analogy about detaching from the business. And so that's how all of those things link together is go from rainmaker, see yourself as the architect, install an operating system, get above the business.
Very nice. You know, clearly this interview would not have been as good if you said Roll Tide. So
clearly. I hope you would have kicked me off. Actually.
Thanks for bringing the heat, Yeah. So I had a friend of mine, Dr. Brett McCabe. He was, I knew him growing up. My mom and his mom were friends, and he was a pitcher at LSU, but he got his PhD, and now he's on the staff at Alabama. And I'm like, what are you doing, man?
Well, funny story. I know Dr. Brett McCabe pretty well.
Oh, yeah?
I do. Well, first of all, he's a Birmingham guy.
Yeah.
Second of all, I got connected with him. He's been on my podcast. Been years.
Nice.
But he's been on my podcast. I need to hit him up. So I played golf in college, and one of my teachers after college, one of my swing instructors was Mark Blackburn, who just won Teacher of the Year, actually in 2023. Mark's a good friend of mine, and Mark obviously uses Brett with some of his students, right? He refers him because Brett does a lot of sports psychology work with, obviously a lot of teams for sure, but he works with a lot of golfers. I think it's actually maybe even how he got his first start outside of baseball. But yeah, no, I know he's a big LSU guy. We did a little mastermind with him for about a year or so on some stuff. He's pretty great. Yeah, I like Brett a lot.
Yeah, smart dude. But he's sleeping with the enemy, man. I don't know. We got to get him out of there.
Yeah, yep. I know it.
Well. Saban's gone, so maybe we can hate Alabama less. Maybe.
No, not at all. Listen, we've got payback. We've got payback coming.
Son.
We got some payback coming.
I got a list.
Better get ready for it. I'm just telling you. He better get ready for it.
I got screenshots. I try not to hold a grudge, but this is SEC football, baby. God will forgive me.
Oh, man. Listen, no doubt about it. I have to tell you, some of my favorite times, I didn't tell you this earlier, I have been to Baton Rouge to watch Auburn play 6 times, and we lost all 6 times. I've yet to see Auburn win in Baton Rouge. And yes, I've been there for the last second Hail Mary in the end zone and all those plays. That is some of, I've been to every SEC stadium at this point outside. Well, of course, Oklahoma and Texas I haven't been because they're new. I haven't been to Missouri yet. Other than that, I've been to all of them. And of course, I hate Tuscaloosa or whatever. But LSU, as far as my away stadiums, I love Baton Rouge. I really do. I love the intensity, but it's never gone above inappropriate. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I've gotten it, buddy. I've gotten it. We've gotten it bad, but we've also had so many beers with great LSU fans.
They feed you well, huh? We will mock you, but we will feed you.
It has been great. Like the trash, I love the trash talk. I love LSU. I love the passion that LSU fans have. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I do think Brian Kelly is a really, really good coach, for sure. But we look forward to kicking y'all's ass this year. So.
Hey, I know. I love the competition. My mom always tells a story because she went to LSU. My dad went to LSU, and she said for years, Playboy magazine would rate the top colleges and party schools, and LSU was always number one. And then one year they didn't even make the list. And they're like, what? And there was a little asterisk, and they were set off to the side, and it said, LSU is no longer on the list because we do not feel it's fair to rank amateurs against the professionals.
I love it.
It's like,
I love it. That's great.
Okay, fair enough. Because it's people, and until you go, man, you have no idea.
No, you don't.
It's kind of bittersweet because I always say Baton Rouge is backwards on purpose, and they're proud of it. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, people, can we get some running water? Maybe some stoplights. I mean, that state lives for LSU, man. Like I wish they had a little more to live for.
It does, no doubt about that.
It is fun going back.
For sure.
Very nice. Bradley Hamner, thanks for coming on, man. It's been good catching up.
Yeah, appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Have a good day.
All right, you too.